Evelyn Harcourt had never imagined that retirement would feel like this. After 40 years of waking before dawn, packing lunches for herself, and taking the same steady walk to the primary school in Lower Bath, she had dreamt of a quieter life. Her days were supposed to be filled with warm tea, gentle strolls by the River Avon, and the slow rediscovery of hobbies she had once abandoned. Instead, the house felt smaller than ever. Sebastian arrived without warning on a rainy Tuesday morning. His suitcase wheels had scraped against the stone path, echoing through the narrow terrace street. When Evelyn opened the door, she noticed the same stormy look in his eyes that had shadowed his teenage years. He kissed her cheek politely, but with a sort of distracted impatience. He said he only needed to stay for a little while. He said he needed time to sort out his life. He said many things that morning, yet none of them sounded like the truth. Evelyn welcomed him in any way. She always had. For the first few days, the house hummed with an uneasy peace. Sebastian slept late, stayed up even later, and spent long hours in front of his laptop with the curtains shut. He barely spoke at dinner. He barely asked how she was. But each evening, Evelyn would place a meal on the table and try her best to ignore the tight knot forming in her chest. She told herself he only needed space. Then the questions began. How much did you spend at the supermarket this week, Mum? Why did you order that bottle of wine? Why are you wasting money on a cleaner when you could do the work yourself? Evelyn blinked, startled each time. His tone resembled that of a man conducting a financial interview. One afternoon, she walked into the sitting room and found Sebastian at the dining table, hunched over his laptop. He did not notice her at first. The light from the screen glowed against his face, revealing a spreadsheet filled with numbers, color-coded and meticulously arranged. When he finally looked up, there was a strange firmness in his expression. I have been organizing your finances, he said. Someone has to. You are not managing them properly. Evelyn felt a cold slice of dread. How had he accessed her accounts? Why did he believe her life required such scrutiny? How long had he been watching her spending? Sebastian clicked something on the laptop, rotated the screen slightly, and continued speaking as if he were giving a presentation. He pointed at lines of expenses she barely recognized. Deliveries. Payments. Transfers. He had labeled a column future inheritance value. Evelyn felt her breath tighten. The knot in her chest twisted painfully. She realized then that her home, once a refuge, was beginning to feel like a place under surveillance. Her son had not simply returned. He had begun to take inventory of her life. Outside, the rain began to fall again, tapping steadily against the window. Inside, Evelyn understood something was shifting in ways she could not yet name. And that shift was only the beginning. Evelyn woke before dawn, the pale light of Bath creeping through the thin curtains. She moved quietly down the staircase, grateful for the silence. Mornings were the only time she still felt like the house belonged to her. Later in the day, Sebastian would take over the living room, sprawled across the sofa, issuing demands with the entitlement of a king. She boiled the kettle, listening to the soft hum, but froze when she heard footsteps behind her. Sebastian stood in the doorway, hair disheveled, dressed in last night's clothes. Mum, did you buy the wrong milk again? He opened the fridge and scoffed. This brand costs more than the one I told you to get. Why do you keep wasting money? Evelyn steadied her breath. It is just milk, Sebastian. He turned, eyes sharp. It is not just milk. It is a pattern. Before she could protest, he pulled his laptop onto the counter and opened a spreadsheet already filled with colored boxes and numbers. He angled the screen towards her. I have been tracking everything you spend. All of it. Look at this. He tapped his finger against a column. Last month, you spent nearly double on groceries. And what about the gardener? Do we really need him? Evelyn's heart tightened. She had never felt so audited. Sebastian continued. If you are not careful, you will burn through the money that is meant to set us up for the future. Us. The word stung. It was her pension, her savings, her home. Yet he said it as if it belonged to him. She forced a smile, trying to avoid an argument. I think I can still make my own decisions, darling. He snapped the laptop shut so loudly she flinched. You are being irresponsible. Someone has to take control here. And with that, he marched out of the kitchen, leaving the scent of cold whiskey in his wake. Evelyn leaned against the counter, trembling. A spreadsheet. He had actually made a spreadsheet. A careful little system to monitor her, to shrink her life inch by inch. She wondered how long this had been building. How long he had been preparing to take over more than her spending. Almost without thinking, she whispered to herself. I need to talk to Harriet. Her oldest friend. Someone who would listen. Someone who would tell her she was not losing her mind. But a sudden thought stopped her cold. If Sebastian was tracking her spending, was he tracking everything else too? She stared at the kitchen doorway, a chill crawling up her spine. Because slowly, unmistakably, it felt as though her son was turning her home into a cage. And he had just showed her the key he planned to use to lock it. The doorbell rang just after midday, cutting through the heavy stillness of the house. Evelyn startled, half expecting Sebastian to shout from upstairs, demanding she answer it. But the house remained silent. For once, he was out, meeting a friend in town, leaving behind the chaos of his presence. Evelyn opened the door to find Harriet Woodford, her dearest friend since they were teenagers in Bath. Harriet stood wrapped in a navy wool coat, her greying curls poking out from beneath a knitted hat. Good heavens, you look pale, Evelyn. Are you unwell? Evelyn stepped aside to let her in. I am fine. Just tired. But Harriet was not fooled. She always had a sharp eye for the things Evelyn tried to hide. The moment they settled in the sitting room, Harriet leaned forward. Tell me everything. Evelyn hesitated, glancing towards the staircase as if Sebastian might materialize at any moment. He has been difficult. Harriet snorted softly. Sebastian has always been difficult. What is he doing now? After a long pause, Evelyn spoke. He is keeping track of my spending. All of it. He has a spreadsheet. He monitors what I buy, when I buy it, how much it costs. Harriet's eyebrows shot up. That is not normal, Evelyn. That is controlling. Evelyn felt her throat tighten. I know, but he thinks he is helping. He says I am wasting his future. Harriet's voice softened. It is your future. And your money. Not his. Evelyn nodded, but her chest felt tight, as if invisible hands were pressing against her ribs. She knew Harriet was right. She had always known. But saying it aloud made the truth sound louder. He is different, Harriet. He snaps at me constantly. He checks the post before I can get to it. He goes through the bins. Harriet froze. He goes through your bins. Evelyn swallowed hard. To see what I throw away, apparently. For a moment, Harriet said nothing. Then she placed her hand firmly over Evelyn's. Evelyn, this is escalating. You cannot let him corner you like this. But Evelyn's voice shook. What can I do? He is my son. Harriet leaned closer. And you are in danger of letting him rule your life. Before Evelyn could respond, they both heard the crunch of tires on the gravel drive. Harriet's grip tightened. Is that him? Evelyn's blood ran cold. Yes. The front door opened. Footsteps entered the hall. Heavy. Purposeful. Then Sebastian's voice filled the house. Mum. Why is Harriet here? Harriet straightened, her jaw set like a drawn blade. Because your mother needs support. Sebastian stepped into the sitting room, eyes narrowing, assessing, calculating. His smile was thin, cruel at the edges. Does she? He looked directly at Evelyn. Or is someone putting ideas in your head? Evelyn felt the air shift, thickening with tension. Harriet rose to her feet, unafraid. If you want to control someone, Sebastian, pick on someone your own size. Sebastian's expression hardened. This is my house too. I have every right to know what is happening here. Harriet shot back. No, you do not. You live here because your mother is generous. Not because you own anything. Evelyn watched the scene unfold, her heart hammering so loudly she could hear nothing else. Sebastian's face twisted, fury simmering just beneath the surface. Harriet turned to Evelyn, her voice calm but urgent. You call me later. Do you hear me? No matter what. As Harriet stepped past Sebastian, he leaned closer to his mother, whispering just loud enough for her to hear. We will talk later. You and I. Evelyn felt the meaning settle like a shadow across her skin. And for the first time, she feared her own son. The atmosphere in the house shifted after Harriet's visit. Sebastian moved through the rooms with a sharper edge, as if every step he took was designed to remind Evelyn of his presence. He no longer tried to hide his irritation. He questioned every receipt, every phone call, every time she locked the bathroom door. Evelyn found herself shrinking, moving quietly through her own home, tiptoeing around her son like a frightened tenant. One evening, as dusk settled over Bath and the amber street lamps flickered to life, Sebastian emerged from the spare room he had claimed as his office. Without a word, he placed a printed stack of papers on the dining table. What is this? Evelyn asked, her voice unsteady. A plan, he replied. She picked up the first page. A financial projection. Another page. A care home brochure. Another. A timetable for clearing the house. Her hand trembled. Sebastian, what is all this? He folded his arms, completely calm. Solutions, Mum. You need structure. You need help. And I need stability. This house is too big for you. You cannot manage it alone. Evelyn stared at the page showing the care home. A place in Bristol. A smiley nurse on the cover. A private room with a single bed. A note scribbled by Sebastian, good facilities. Cheaper if booked early. Her stomach dropped. You want to put me away? He scoffed. Do not be dramatic. You are 70. Things will only get harder from here. A home would look after you properly. I am not going anywhere, Evelyn whispered. Sebastian leaned in, lowering his voice as if speaking to a stubborn child. You are not listening. It is what is best for both of us. You get support. I get the house. He paused, then added without shame. It is the logical next step. The words hit her with a force she could not mask. He had finally said it. The thing he had been circling for months. He wanted her gone. Not dead. But out of the way. Removed. Packed neatly into a room someone else supervised while he took everything she had built. Evelyn backed away, her breath shallow. Sebastian watched her calmly, coldly, as though presenting a business proposal rather than dismantling her life. And there is more, he continued. He handed her a document stamped with bold letters, power of attorney. I downloaded this for you. It will make everything much smoother. I can sign for you. Decide what is best. Handle your money. It is safer this way. Evelyn felt the world tilt. She could not speak. Sebastian smiled thinly. We can go to the solicitor this week. Do not make a fuss. Her voice barely escaped her lips. Sebastian. I will not sign this. His expression darkened instantly. Do not make this difficult, Mum. There is no reason to drag this out. It will happen eventually. You might as well do it the easy way. Evelyn clutched the back of a chair to steady herself. He stepped closer. Too close. You are wasting what is meant for me, he murmured. Every month you stay here, every pound you spend, that house loses value. My future loses value. Evelyn's fear crystallized into something sharp. Something she had not felt in years. A spark of defiance. I am still alive, she said quietly. His jaw tightened. For now. The two words hung in the air, heavy, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Sebastian did not touch her. He did not raise his voice. But he had said enough. And Evelyn understood, truly and deeply, that she needed to protect herself. Because her son was planning a future where she no longer existed in her own home. And perhaps, if she was not careful, a future where she no longer existed at all. For the next 2 days, Evelyn moved through her home like a shadow of herself. Sebastian watched her constantly, waiting for weakness, waiting for compliance. He checked the post every morning before she could reach the front door. He monitored her bank notifications on her tablet, which he had insisted on setting up for her. He questioned why she spent £8 on a scarf for the chilly evenings. Every action she took, every breath she drew, seemed to belong to him. But something inside Evelyn had shifted. A small flame, fragile but steady, flickered at the base of her resolve. She began planning. It started with a phone call. Not from the house phone. Not from her mobile, which Sebastian had begun checking. But from the telephone box near the old church at the end of St. Catherine's Road. A place Sebastian never had a reason to go. With trembling fingers, Evelyn dialed Harriet's number. Harriet answered on the second ring. Evelyn. Are you safe? Yes, whispered Evelyn. But I do not have much time. I need advice. Harriet's voice sharpened immediately. Tell me everything. Standing in the cold air of early morning, Evelyn explained Sebastian's documents, the care home plan, the power of attorney. She could hear Harriet's rage simmering through the receiver. You cannot stay in that house alone with him, Harriet said firmly. You need legal protection. And you need someone on your side who is not afraid of him. Evelyn exhaled shakily. I am afraid he will find out. Then Harriet said something that shifted the ground beneath Evelyn's feet. There is someone you can speak to. Someone who has helped with situations like this. A solicitor. I can take you. Privately. Evelyn swallowed the rising fear. If Sebastian knew she was seeking help, he would become unpredictable. He might lash out. He might prevent her from leaving entirely. But she needed this. She needed a way out before he pushed her into the corner he had been building for months. They arranged a day. A time. A quiet plan. Evelyn hung up and walked back home, the cool air stinging her cheeks. She entered the house to find Sebastian in the kitchen, arms crossed, waiting. Where have you been? Evelyn steadied her breathing. A walk. He studied her face. You look flushed. It was cold, she replied softly, removing her coat. Her hands were cold enough that they shook, which she prayed he would attribute to the weather. He stepped closer. You did not answer your mobile. I left it on the table, she said. I did not hear it ring. He watched her for a long, unsettling moment, as though peering into her thoughts. Evelyn forced her face into calmness, though her heart thudded violently. Finally, he walked past her. Do not wander off again without telling me. I need to know where you are. She nodded gently. But inside, her fear turned to something new. Determination. That afternoon, she found a small tote bag and quietly tucked inside it the essentials she might need for her meeting with the solicitor. Her identification. A bank statement. Her will. She hid the bag beneath the winter blankets in the airing cupboard. She spent the rest of the day rehearsing her story silently, forming each sentence with care, preparing to tell a stranger the truth she had hidden for far too long. That evening, as darkness settled over Bath and the streetlights cast golden circles on the pavement, Evelyn slipped into the sitting room. She stood before the fireplace her late husband had installed decades earlier. A place of comfort that had become a place of dread. She whispered softly into the quiet room. "I will not let him ruin the rest of my life." Behind her, a floorboard creaked. Evelyn froze. Then a voice, low and chilling, drifted from the doorway. "What will I not ruin, Mum?" Sebastian stood there. Silent. Watching her. And Evelyn realized her first step towards freedom had already put her in greater danger than she ever imagined. The following morning, Evelyn awoke with a tension in her chest she could not shake. Sebastian had left for his usual errands, leaving the house in a silence she had not felt for months. Every creak of the floorboards reminded her of his presence, but she forced herself to move. Today was the day she would step beyond fear. She retrieved the tote bag she had hidden the night before, the contents heavy with the weight of her plan. With careful precision, she packed an extra scarf, a notebook with her account of the months under Sebastian's control, and the small purse Harriet had lent her for emergencies. Before leaving, she walked through the rooms, touching objects, feeling the life she was reclaiming. The kitchen, once dominated by Sebastian's glare, felt almost welcoming. She paused at the window, watching the quiet street outside, and took a deep breath. The walk to the church box felt like walking through a storm of her own anxieties. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward her, every passerby a potential witness to her secret. Yet, with each step, the determination grew, anchoring her feet firmly on the cobbled streets. Harriet was waiting, leaning casually against the old stone wall, ice-sharp and assessing. She greeted Evelyn with a reassuring nod. "Ready?" Harriet asked. Evelyn nodded, clutching her bag. The solicitor's office was a short walk away, tucked into a narrow street off Pulteney Bridge. The quiet of the office, the smell of polished wood and legal books, made Evelyn feel as if she had stepped into another world. A world where she had a voice. The solicitor, a woman named Joanna, listened intently as Evelyn spoke, detailing Sebastian's manipulation, the financial control, and the intimidation. Joanna's face remained calm, but her eyes held an edge that promised action. "We will act quickly," Joanna said. "There are restraining orders, legal protections, and emergency filings we can prepare. But you must be careful. Any slip could alert him." Evelyn nodded. Every detail mattered, every word she had prepared now became her armor. Returning home, Evelyn felt the familiar thrum of fear but also a new pulse, courage. She entered quietly, pretending to have been out for a walk. Sebastian was still absorbed in his papers, unaware. That night, she set the trap. She left the house with the door slightly ajar, a note on the table hinting she had gone to see a friend. Then, hiding in the shadows across the street, she watched Sebastian's reaction. His anger did not take long. He stormed to the door, his face a mask of fury. He called her name, his voice echoing against the brick walls. Yet Evelyn did not flinch. She held the camera Harriet had lent her, documenting his behavior. Every gesture, every word, became evidence. And for the first time in years, Evelyn felt a flicker of power. The power to reclaim her life, even if it meant confronting the man who had ruled her world with fear. Sebastian did not expect her to return so soon. The sound of Evelyn's footsteps in the hallway startled him, and for a fleeting moment, he looked vulnerable, the mask of control slipping. Evelyn stepped inside, calm and deliberate, her eyes meeting his without a tremor. "Where have you been?" he demanded, his voice sharp but lacking its usual certainty. Evelyn held up the small camera, clicking it on. "Everywhere you hoped I wouldn't be. And I recorded everything." Sebastian's face changed. Rage flickered, then fear, then disbelief. He lunged toward her, but Evelyn stepped aside, moving with a precision that startled him. Harriet's advice echoed in her mind: stay composed, do not react, document everything. "You cannot scare me anymore, Sebastian. I have evidence of your control, your lies, and your threats," she said firmly. "The solicitor will see this. The restraining order will be in place by morning." Sebastian's hands trembled as he reached for the papers on the table, as if grabbing them could restore his power. But Evelyn stood her ground. She was no longer the frightened woman who had hidden behind polite smiles. This was the Evelyn who had reclaimed her strength, every calculated step a declaration. The room seemed to shrink around him. Every ticking second reminded him that the world was no longer his to command. Evelyn advanced slowly, closing the distance while maintaining control of the camera, her gaze unwavering. He backed away, trapped not by walls, but by the undeniable truth she held in her hands. Then came the moment he realized the depth of his loss. Evelyn's calm, her unshakable presence, and the documentation of his manipulation combined to make a formidable wall he could not breach. He could scream, he could deny, but the law would stand with her. Evelyn's heart pounded, yet she felt the strange serenity of someone finally stepping into their own power. Sebastian could rage all he wanted, but she had the truth, and with it, her freedom. The morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and golden. Evelyn stood by the window, the camera resting beside her, as the solicitor arrived. Every step he took seemed measured, deliberate, a contrast to the chaos that had consumed her life for months. Sebastian was gone. He had left in the night, perhaps out of fear, perhaps out of defeat. The house was quiet, almost peaceful for the first time in years. Evelyn breathed deeply, feeling the weight she had carried slowly lift. The solicitor handed her a stack of papers. "Everything is in order," he said. "The restraining order is official, and you have full legal rights over the estate. You are safe." Evelyn smiled, the first true smile in a long time. She thought of Harriet's guidance, of the small steps that had led to this moment. Courage, persistence, and careful planning had brought her here, to a place where fear no longer ruled her decisions. She walked through the house, each room a reminder of battles fought and won. The silence was no longer oppressive, it was a testament to her strength. She paused by the mirror, seeing not the frightened woman of the past, but someone resolute, someone capable of facing whatever came next. Outside, the town of Bath carried on, unaware of the quiet victory within a small, modest home. Evelyn stepped out onto the front porch, feeling the crisp morning air fill her lungs. For the first time in years, she felt truly free. And in that freedom, she discovered the quiet joy of reclaiming her life, one decision at a time.